We're going to go. You ready?
Yeah.
I don't know how it's going to be with you being actually in the room with me. I'm a bit confused and scared at this point.
I think we'll be fine.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Podcast Assemble, the show where you come for your regular geeky download. My name's Tommy, and I am delighted to be joined in the same room.
In person.
In person.
In
As
the flesh.
I can't remember what I say next. The one and the only DL. How are you, mate?
Face to face.
Face to face. I got so
to
excited. I
face
forgot
to
what the intro
face.
was.
I'm good, man, and I'm glad to see you.
Right.
And it feels like we're doing this whole oh, we're all on Zoom again thing like with COVID, but it was just you were traveling and doing.
I was
all
across the
stuff,
pond. Absolutely
man.
was,
It's
man.
good
It's
to-
weird being in the same room. Like I'm just having to get back used to actually not talking over you.
or like talking with like a delay.
Yeah.
No, that's fair.
I feel like the editing time is going to be reduced significantly, which makes me so fucking happy.
Was it that bad? See, this
Oh,
is
it
how,
was awful.
Viewers, I don't do any editing. I'm that dickhead. So whenever we ever make money, the split's going Tommy's way.
90-10?
We're not having a what's it called? What was that one podcast on Barstool where there was like this big debate? It was like a chick one. Oh, Daddy something.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah,
Call me
yeah,
Daddy
yeah.
or something. And there was like this big rev split debate that we won't be having that.
No.
Should we ever make money?
Well, I don't know. We'll get
Yeah.
there. We'll get there.
Anyway.
At some point, I'll make you get more involved,
Yeah, some point.
and then you you can up your split a little bit.
Unforeseen
From 90
unforeseen point.
to 85.
So yeah, man, life's been good. I've been hanging out. I think I've gotten a fair amount through. Like I've watched a lot of stuff.
It's been
in
about
the
2
last
weeks. I feel like
2
I've
weeks.
done loads as well. I've
Because
had
it's
to
rained.
narrow
It
it down.
just rains.
Yeah.
It's been raining since I saw Batman. It was raining 2 weeks before that. It's been raining 3 weeks. Apparently, it's gonna be raining all the way through August. So
Sydney's just gone
I'm
crazy.
just used to rain. So
What's
got a lot of-
happening? This is my UK. When I was in the UK, it was delightful.
Yeah,
It was
okay.
cold, but it was sunny.
Apparently Melbourne has like the best summer ever, but like
Damn,
this
that's
is rain till August, so like it's a good thing there's all this good content out because there actually
so
has been
much
a
good
lot of
content.
like shows and stuff, so it's been really easy to be a couch potato.
Before we get into
Yeah,
it, this is a good time to say there's going to be time codes in the description. So if you guys wanted to listen to us banter about our days, feel free, or you can jump to the main topic, which I have been asking Dre to do for so long, and I'm so excited to talk about. So
not that long. It's like a month.
wow,
It's been out
since it
that
came
long.
out.
It's barely even been out.
Forever. It's barely even finished, to be perfectly honest.
Um,
It's funny because my favorite podcast I listen to all the time, they literally just burn through content. So this came out, and the day it had finished, they were doing a podcast about it. And I'm like, and there's me like 3 weeks later, like, come on, Dre, we're so
That's
far
what he
behind.
wants. That's
We're
what he
not.
wants.
We're not really. So what have you been up to? Speaking of content,
I finished The Sinner, which was good. Castlevania season 3, so I'm just kicking on with the same stuff. I rewatched.
I can't remember season 3. Sorry, what happens in Castlevania?
It's kind of uneventful so far.
Okay.
It's like they're at this. There's these priests that are like, it's like this chapel's attracting broken man. And
Are they filling the void type thing?
It's like they're filling the void. Like I don't know, man. There's not that much happening so far.
Right.
Dracula's son is just hanging out with these two Asian people, like these two Japanese style, like I don't know, warriors. And then what else is happening? The other guy's like the
A la carte?
that's Alucard, but what is the guy who is like his other forge maker that is like really like
It's
sadistic?
a long time since I've watched
He like
it.
hits himself with like the
Oh.
black guy. Anyway, he's off like creating his own army. And then what else, dude? There's not that much is happening. The two main characters, the like Peacemaker, or like it's not Peacemaker. Whoops.
Peacemaker.
What do they call them?
I can't even remember.
The magic people.
You've got the female character who's magic, and you've
but
got
what do they call her? It's
you've got the
it's
other
not
Dracula.
Peacemaker, but it's something Maker. I
I
think.
can't. I don't
Anyway.
know. It's a long time since I've seen it. Why don't
Yeah.
you just Google it I'll Google it while you're talking.
In any case, they are in this. They're just enjoying kind of like their little married lifestyle in their little wagon where they go kill the night monsters, and they come across a town where the priests are actually bad again, and they're attracting bad characters, and they're doing something dark. And this town, it's like a Witcher's. It's like out of a Witcher movie.
Ooh.
This part of it, or Witcher mission. But they're trying to get to the bottom of it. It's very, I like the show, but this is a slow start for this season. But I'm still enjoying it.
How many episodes? How many eps are you in?
I think like 2 or 3. It's very slow.
But it's like 10 episodes.
Yeah, no, I'm still enjoying it. It's just slower than a lot. I mean, the first 2 seasons started with like all out war against Dracula, like episode 2. So it's bit of a slower
Are
pace.
you talking about the Trevor Belmont character that I've just
Trevor
read in the
Belmont
background?
and the other lady?
Cypher, is that her name?
Yes, and she's like a Spanish voice actor, I
I
think.
think so. I'm not even going to try and say that.
I don't know.
Alejandra
What is she called though?
Reynoso.
She's called
Cypher.
Yeah,
Cypher.
but they're like a anyway. She's a
Belnades?
part of some sect. Anyway, yeah, Castlevania's good. Rewatched Knives Out with Gail.
Good film.
So good.
We should have talked about that at the
It's a
time.
really good movie. Maybe when the sequel comes out.
We'll
They're
talk
making
about
a
the
sequel, and the
sequel.
cast looks exciting.
Yeah, because it's completely different, right?
Yeah, and I didn't see if it's completely different, but I saw some of the actors, and I'm like, oh, this would be good.
Completely different cast, just keeping Daniel Craig in his
Which is what they should do.
Cluedo style role.
Which totally makes sense.
Wait, Cluedo's not there. What am I talking about?
Yeah, Clue. You mean like Clue?
Death on the Nile. Yeah. We call it Cluedo in the UK. That's a very
okay.
subtle difference. I don't know why. That's such a weird difference. Sorry, what else you been doing? Talk to me.
A couple of dumb romantic comedies because, the partner picks half the time.
Of course.
What If, which had Daniel Radcliffe in it.
I have not heard of this.
It's like a romantic comedy with Daniel Radcliffe and what's his name? Adam Driver.
Really?
Yeah.
Now that's a weird pair.
I mean, it's like, it was actually it was funny. It was enjoyable as far as
Okay.
romantic comedies go. If you have to slip one in with your partner, I'd recommend it. Then we
Choice
had to
of
watch
words.
Home Again, which is another one, which was not one I would recommend.
Okay.
That's one that with Reese Witherspoon that I had to watch. But the most important thing
Would you not slip it into that one? Is that what you...
No, I'm saying like skip that one entirely.
I just loved your choice of words there.
Do not slip it in. Hereditary. My God, is it frightening?
Talk to me.
It's so scary.
I know the vague premise. Can you give me the non-spoiler version?
It's just the non-spoiler version. The
It's about-
synopsis does
it's about-
it quite
yeah.
well. I remember reading the synopsis and being like, "Well, that's just like telling me nothing, but very, very ominous."
It's like a family who live in another family's house, right? And they're sort of vaguely trying to take over in the background. I remember it.
No.
No, okay, all right.
So it is a family.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm just gonna read.
You read away.
I'm
You
gonna
find
read the
that for me.
synopsis of it because it was so accurate. Like Hereditary. How do you spell this? There we go. It was so accurately. Oh man, they've changed it. The Netflix one was better. But a grieving family is haunted by tragic and disturbing occurrences. That is not the one on Netflix. It's much better, but it's
That
basically
doesn't tell me anything.
there's the Netflix one was something like a family deals
Sorry,
with
I'm not thinking of Hereditary. I'm thinking of Parasite. That's what I'm thinking of the wrong film.
very different.
Hereditary is the one
Hered-
where they bait and switched from the trailer, right? Looked like it was going to be the little girl all along, and it wasn't.
Don't want to answer that, but
No,
there-
I mean, like, we're not giving away spoilers here. It looks like it's going to be the little girl, right?
don't want to answer.
I
that.
haven't seen it, so I
So,
don't.
so I mean, like I didn't see the trailer, but the little
Okay.
girl is creepy for sure.
She,
So there's,
without being rude to a person, that character looks very.
I mean, they
creepy.
made her look even worse because
Yeah,
she's all
they did.
dirty and stuff. But the point being, a family deals with the tragic loss while uncovering something about their past
in the background.
that
Yeah.
and dealing with what is the word they use?
Malicious?
Malicious forces,
malevolent?
malevolent. What's the word with M that's dangerous? I don't know.
Malevolent?
It's not
Is
malevolent.
that's benevolent? I'm thinking of. That's a different
Benevolent
word.
is good.
Malicious is a good word.
I think
like that.
it was like malicious. But it was more like sci-fi. The word. Anyway,
This is the part of the show where we can't remember words. We do this.
yeah, we gotta cut all this. But this is the girl Millie Shapiro is who you're talking about.
Yes,
and you're right. She does not. I mean, she is a bit creepy looking.
I mean, just the trailer alone does that her a lot of justice for how
it's fucking frightening.
creepy she is.
I mean, that
in
movie is
in
fucking
that film.
frightening. It's fucking frightening.
Worth it.
I would watch it, yeah,
Okay,
but
cool.
don't plan on like.
Sleeping.
Yeah, I mean, like enjoying watching it. Like it's frightening.
Brilliant.
It's like a slow build. It's actually like 2 movies in one.
Okay.
Like
I think I've had this spoiled for, like, a lot of it spoiled for me on the internet, but I know that the
spoilers for Hereditary.
yeah. Let's just say spoilers for
Hereditary.
Hereditary. Let's say that. That's
Yeah,
easier.
spoilers
I
for
know that the
Hereditary.
girl dies very early.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Earlier in the film than you think she's going to.
That's a bummer because
you
it was
think-
quite surprising for me.
Yeah,
But
it
it's so
flips to a different character.
it's
who the
so
focus is on.
early that actually it's not that big a spoiler.
Yeah, and I think
Um,
that got spoiled for a lot of people from various awards ceremonies and such.
But that doesn't really change. Anyway, I'll stop. It doesn't. Your point, like, oh, you think it's the girl? Well, like, just she's still involved.
yeah, all right, okay,
Yeah.
cool. That's it. That's interesting because I didn't know she was. I didn't realize she was a recurring character.
She's frightening. Anyway, that was fucking frightening. And A24 again, fucking
A24.
good
Although that
movie.
was one where
Yeah.
they didn't really subvert expectations
did
in
not.
the trailer.
They did not. It's
That's-
fucking scary.
Other than the girl thing, like the trailer's pretty much bang on what it's going to be, right? Like it's a creepy.
I didn't see the trailer again, but it's a slow build horror.
Okay,
I'll say that.
good.
And then lastly, man, I've been playing a a lot of Spider-Man and Deathloop. I basically finished Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
I'm almost done.
How many percentage are you in?
Like 93.
You've done like that much of the game.
Apparently,
so
yeah.
you're trying to finish it.
I didn't. Well, I'm 93% through the campaign. I don't know what the
Okay.
rest is. Like,
I think that's telling you the percentage you've done of the game.
then I'm pretty close.
You're doing pretty
to
good.
being done.
I think I got 98 or something, and I didn't have a clue what the last 2% was. So I was like, I don't know.
Fuck it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
Deathloop is probably one of the coolest games I've played
Tidy.
in the last like 3 years.
I'm
It's
so glad 'cause
so
that's a
creative.
recommendation for me. Like your partner was messaging me over Christmas, like he's got a PS5. I don't know how to get him, and
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. And I was like, just she asked me whether she'd buy a different game. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. I was like, do not buy that. Oh, it's Call of Duty. I was like,
yeah, no.
do
If you're
not
gonna
buy
get a
Call of
first-person
Duty.
shooter. Yeah.
He's gonna play. It's gonna be Halo if he gets one, right? Like, so
Yeah.
just don't worry about it. And then I was just like, this Deathloop's new. It's interesting. Like, it looks a bit quirky. Why don't you try that?
Dude, it's so creative. It's really cool.
That's awesome
Yeah,
because
it's a really cool game.
it's literally stuck in a death loop, right? So like you play until you die, and then you've got to.
Kind of.
Are there certain save points in it?
It's honestly, if you're gonna play it, I'd rather you just experience. Like, it's kind of.
There's too many good games.
Dude, it's like one of the best games I've played in a long time.
Really?
I would highly recommend.
Better
playing
than
it.
Halo?
It's more like Halo. Like, it's hard to compare it to Halo because Halo's like this blockbuster that can't
Yeah, okay.
really like stray too far from the formula. Like,
Yeah,
Halo
okay.
becoming an open world game was like this crazy, like quasi open world game. It was this crazy change. Whereas this is like almost like it's like its own. It's so creatively different
It's
than
its own
anything I've
beast.
played. Yeah, that like I would say yes. It is a more creative
Interesting.
and honestly, like I haven't finished Halo. I'm playing this because it's more fun.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Like, Halo's cool, it's great. I'll always like it, but like this is definitely a more like creative.
Have you finished the career mode on career mode? That's the wrong word.
Career mode?
You finished the
like
story
NBA?
story mode? Yeah.
No, I haven't even finished it. No, I haven't
On
finished
Halo,
the
you haven't
story-
finished story
No,
mode?
I stopped.
Wow.
I will finish it, but I just haven't
I'm
yet.
very surprised by that with you.
Yeah, same. But Deathloop was just like it's grabbing. It's so different that it's grabbing me.
I
and
love that
taking hold.
your hand signal is it's grabbing you by the nuts. That's what it looks like.
It's
So it's
like-
grabbing you by the nuts and it's holding on.
Holding on tight. Yeah, it's just like a mix of so many different like, and apparently this studio is really, really good. It's like this French studio,
I don't know anything about them. I only know.
Arkham or something. Yeah,
Okay. I only know about the game, and I saw the original trailers a while ago, and I thought, oh, I might play that. And then as soon as
like,
your partner was like, "What should I do?" I was like, "This."
Just a high level, you are stuck in a death loop. You don't really know why. You're kind of uncovering it as the character, like because he loses his memory.
Okay.
And so it's like you're just discovering things as you play, and it's really, really interesting.
He must remember every single loop, though.
Well,
'Cause that's kind of the idea.
Well, like the idea is like you're basically you're building to something that everyone else already knows is going to happen, and you're trying to change what is apparently the inevitable.
Makes sense.
So everyone else seems to remember, but
Terminator
you
2
don't.
Judgment Day.
And then you're all like you're basically it's all like a detective story.
Is it
So
just
you're going
that you
through
don't know-
you're going through the
Right,
same
right.
loop at different times of day, figuring out more information that affects how you would play it
Get to
through the next time.
Yeah.
And it's like this detective story mixed with like a Christopher Nolan time movie mixed
Is
with
it
assassins.
just the central finite point that you don't know? So you know what, like he remembers all the things he does each time he comes back. He just
well,
doesn't
you've
remember.
played it, so you know.
He just doesn't remember what happens at the end.
Well, the end, he's trying to based off what he learns, he's trying to manipulate the different scenarios to get to this end game scenario that will help him break the loop. But there's other people that are actively trying to stop that from happening. And the way they like do it with multiplayer is like once you've beaten the game, you can play as one of the people trying to stop him from breaking the loop.
That's fun.
And so the multiplayer is like really well integrated into the single player.
This
super cool.
just reminds me of. Do you remember when we did our episode on that terrible movie Boss Level? Was it called? Shout out for that. That pod.
That wasn't terrible.
It was
wasn't
Frank Grillo. It was awful.
Yeah, it wasn't terrible. It just wasn't amazing.
It was not a good movie.
Yeah.
The ending of that was awful. You know what? I've actually got friends who stopped
forgot what the
listening to this
ending was.
podcast because of that one.
Really? That's terrible. Why are you mad at us? We didn't make the movie.
We didn't make the crap movie.
Yeah.
There was just no content out that week.
Yeah.
That's so cool, man. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah, it's really cool. Anyway, how about you, man? I just talked for way too long.
No, it's good. I've done a bunch. Honestly, I've done a bunch of stuff too. So I've tried to narrow it down to a few things that I thought you might find interesting, rather than just babbling on about everything.
Thank
that's
you for
happened.
that.
It's all right. These are things I found interesting too. So we talked a little bit last week about The Boys getting a fresh trailer and a fresh release date. We're pumped for that. We're psyched for coming back to that at some point. However,
okay, you're just gonna repeat.
However,
the news 'cause you
no.
like The Boys that much?
no, yeah, so
Okay,
good.
We already knew that. Yeah.
Well, on Amazon Prime, they just released a new, I don't know how to call it. It's like a short mini series called The Boys Presents Diabolical. And what it is it's a bunch of like, it's just short stories set in the boys' world, but more sort of the graphic novel world. So it's a bunch of weird shit, and each one's directed by a different person.
So it is the same world.
It's the same world, yeah. More like the graphic novels. So they're all animated, and they're all like
so
short
it's
little
not
things.
the same world.
No. It's not with the
same
actual
universe.
characters. Same universe. Yeah, whatever you want to call it. So like the first one, for example, follows around a dude who works in the vault building as one of the testers for the babies that they're putting them through.
Yeah.
And he can't like, he gets attached to one of the babies and he doesn't want to let them just dispose of it. So he helps the baby like find out. It's really interesting. And that's a weird one. Then there's another weird one with, Aquafina, who was in the Shang-Chi movie. She was the sidekick character. She was his best mate who didn't fall in love with at the end. There's one where it's her and she takes some of the Vought stuff, and her superpower is that she has a talking shit. I don't know how else to explain it to you. It's weird. Yes, literally.
It's a terrible superpower.
But there's some weird ones, but there's some really, really interesting good
don't
ones.
want to have privacy when I'm taking shit.
Well,
It's talking to you. That
it's
sounds
just
terrible.
yeah, it's very odd.
Yeah.
No, just a talking shit, one that follows around.
Only one.
She just fires it out.
It's not
and
every time.
It's really strange. But there's some really good ones. Like there's one which is like the Homelander's first mission with the Seven.
Mhm.
And it's about how he's got this paranoia about Black Noir and thinking that Noir's trying to undermine him. And then that's a really good episode. Highly recommend that. If you like, there's some you should
So this
watch.
is already out.
Yeah, it's all on all on
okay.
Amazon Prime. And there was one, and the other one I'd recommend is one where Huey and Billy Butcher find the guy who supplies all of the superheroes with their different types of drugs and their weird kicks, and he gets him to spike one of this guy who's getting like he's getting commended for whatever, like X amount of years of service. He spikes his drugs, so he goes absolutely nuts and obliterates a bunch of soups on like the day of it. It's so good, and but like it perfectly encapsulates that Billy Butcher character, how he just doesn't give a fuck about like life of these soups or anything.
Yeah,
and he's just like,
very much.
I could just murder these right now. It's good.
It's very much like the worst kind of persecution is the kind against me kind of thing. Like, or like the only like I don't care because I don't like soups and I don't care if I kill all of them.
Yeah,
kind of
it's
thing.
very much like that Star Wars anime. You know that I talked to you a little bit about the anime Star Wars thing that they did recently, where it was sort of 8 episodes. It's like that. It's like individual stories, and they're all, some of them are a bit shit. Like the Aquafina one, I just didn't vibe with it. But some of them are just like
it's about a poop.
so good. Yeah. We also got into watching, while my partner actually came over to the UK for a little bit while I was there, just for 5 days there in the middle to sort of break up the hecticness for myself. And we basically binged in a day like all of Drive to Survive. You know, there's like, you ever watch that? It's like the 4th season. That is. So it's about Formula One, right? So
oh yes, I do know.
Yeah, it's a Netflix
I've only seen
show.
the first season.
Yeah, well, I've only seen the 4th season. But it's really interesting the way it's done, right? So it goes through, over like 8 episodes, it goes through each different team, or 8 of the teams who are in Formula One, like, and all their gripes internally and all their struggles and how they're each different. Yeah. And it kind of culminates in how the race season ends that year. Yeah. Really fucking interesting. Really, I have no interest in Formula One, really.
Neither did I, and it got me into it.
It got me really
It was
pumped.
just like the characters. It's also just like a very like...
They're like characters, aren't they?
They're all really, really like, you know, the people that get into that, they are just like different.
I feel like just sit and watch cars just go round and round.
Not only that,
round.
to like drive them and you could be dying at any moment.
Oh my God,
like,
yeah,
you know,
so fast.
And also it's just like, it's actually one of the hardest professional sports to get to the pinnacle of, because there's literally only 9 spots.
There's like 20 people who do it in the world, and and it's immediate as well, right? If you drop off the pace a little bit, you're out. Yeah. Like there's an interesting one in this latest season where Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes, his partner, I only know him because he's British, right? And he's the best in the world. We had to be good at something. I mean, of course, it's a thing where you just sit down.
He's the best in the world. He is like, I'm not trying to like diminish that, but Mercedes cars is also like, that's the thing about this. The cars matter so much.
Yeah.
Like,
And it also matters how. So there's two sides to the championship, right? So there's the individual one where the racers have their podium and who comes first. And I won't spoil any of the season because it's a real interesting one. But there's also the manufacturer's one, which is how many points the cars get based on where they rank in each race.
Yeah.
And depending on how many points they get at the end of the season, that means how much money they get to spend on their car in the next season. So it's really interesting.
I didn't know that.
No, I didn't know either. And it's really interesting that that's part of the reason why they're so obsessed with Red Bull and Mercedes. They want to win that, manufacturers. And you see a lot of the time when some of the races, because each has 2 races in each race, right? So Mercedes has 2, etc., etc. And sometimes they'll let the other one win, so they keep their points tally in the manufacturer challenge higher than it could have been. It's so interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's totally worth watching. If you haven't watched,
it's on my list.
If you haven't watched that, go and watch
for
it.
Sure.
And the last one I thought I'd quickly mention. Funnily enough, going back to The Boys, it has voice work from Jack Quaid, Huey in The Boys, the actual TV show.
Yeah.
It's a thing called Below Decks, and this is also on Amazon Prime. It's really funny. So it's an animated show, and it's a Star Trek spin-off. So how Star Trek's all about it's all about the main crew, and they go to these planets and live long and prosper and all this stuff. I'm really, really isolating it.
I don't know Star Trek at all, so I won't be able to question you.
Well, you get the point of it, though, right? So it's all about a very specific subset of the characters. What this show is about, it's about the people who work beneath them, and the people who. So for example, Picard and all those would get first contact.
Yeah.
This is the people who go and do the second contact. So it's the ones who are way down the chain.
So it's
and
like
they
the
work
Office,
in the engine room.
Yeah, it's like the Office.
It's
Star
pretty
Trek.
funny. I've watched a couple of episodes of it. It's got a nice refreshing vibe that it's not it's based on the lower down people. Do you know what I mean?
It's
It's not just about the the ones with the perfect smiles and the and the
perfect
Botox.
hair,
Yeah, it's fun, man. It's a really good show, and I'm keen to get more of it. I need to actually get Amazon Prime over here to do that.
I was gonna say you watch those random shows I haven't even heard about.
They're all on
The
Prime.
last 3 of these I have not even heard of.
All on Prime, and I haven't. I've never had Prime until recently when I went home and my just at my parents' house, my mum just had Amazon Prime, and I was like,
"Oh, sweet,
sick! I guess
Time
I'll
to
watch some of
binge."
this then." Yeah, let's get through some of this
Dude,
good
well,
content.
you know what I realized is Binge has everything. I've been watching
Really?
so much stuff on Binge lately.
Interesting.
It's just got Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's got all these OG
classics, really.
things that I never finished. So I've just been whenever Gail's doing something and I don't want to watch a full movie, I'll just put on Curb.
Yeah, of course.
I've been watching a lot of Curb. It's fucking good.
Whenever I go on Binge, the first thing that pops up, without fail, is Game of Thrones, and without fail, I sit there and go,
Same.
I'm just not ready yet.
Same.
not
Literally, I go through this exact same thing, and you know what? Part of me, I want it to be 15 years from now. So I kind of forget some of the stuff.
Yeah.
It's all still in my brain
Same.
so well. Even I've already rewatched it, I think, twice.
Oh, well, I've watched it so many times.
Or maybe 3 times.
So many
Some
times.
episodes, obviously, 5 times.
In between seasons, I would rewatch older seasons.
So
regularly.
I just already, and I just know the book so well as well.
Yeah, okay.
Part of me wants to kind of also just separate myself from that until he finally releases another book.
It's never going to happen. It's just not going to do it. I refuse to. I just don't believe he's gonna.
Well,
it's never going to happen. I was a bit the same with Scrubs. So
but he's I cannot believe you're even saying this about Scrubs. This guy's a literary god.
No.
And you just brought up Scrubs.
You did this last week.
I like JD.
Stop it.
I like JD. But come on, dude.
It was the same thing. I watched it so much growing up. When it finally got to the point of
Turk.
Yeah, when it finally got to the point of I finished university and I was like, I just didn't have the opportunity to watch it. You move on. I went traveling, I got a job. And then it came to 10 years later, I was like, I haven't watched it in so long. I watched an episode and I was like, great. I've had some distance from this. I can actually enjoy this again.
Yeah,
and that's what I want.
Same with me. I haven't seen
Thrones.
Scrubs in a long time and I loved it.
I
never really finished it though.
Really?
I always watched it intermittently.
Okay.
And so just tuned in, didn't know what season I was in or what, but because it's just funny.
I knew exactly where I was.
You just know okay, they're not dating, so it must be this
Yeah,
part. That's kind of what I had, as far as timelines go.
I never knew this, but apparently there was a massive backlash against JD after the 3rd season. So the 3rd season is when he spends the whole season trying to get the main character Elliot back. The whole season, and then at the end of the season, there's that thing where he goes, "You always want what you can't have," and then when you get it, you don't want it, and he goes, "Oh my god, I don't wanna." And then after that, it apparently took 4 seasons for them to make him likable again. And I didn't know that at the time. I was just watching
because people were pissed off at him
for how he acted towards Elliot. Yeah, how interesting.
but he's still funny.
He is, and that's the whole point of the show.
His character is so well done.
But if you notice, after that
He hasn't
season,
been in anything since.
after that season, they start doing more and more perspectives from other people. Like Carla will have the perspective, and Dr. Cox. So they moved it away from him very subtly in different ways. And I never knew that.
Zach Braff?
Zach Braff, yeah. I like him.
What's he been in?
I've probably talked about
Garden State?
Yeah, Garden State.
That's about it.
He's done a new Cheaper by the Dozen. That's on Netflix, I think.
Has he? He's fallen far.
I think I've talked about this on the show before. One of my only minor claim to fame was one time I saw him in a play in London. And
that's what he's been doing.
And I bumped into him afterwards, and I tweeted him, and he retweeted me, and it was the best day when Twitter was like tiny. Like,
so what, did you just tweet him like just saw Zach Braff in this play?
I was like, good on you on your play, mate. It was good
and
stuff.
Like no one even knew he was in a play.
No one had
That's
any
why
idea.
He retweeted. He needed some fucking love.
He needed some PR.
Yeah, this is literally no one even knew he was doing plays.
No one cared that he was doing plays. Look, anyway, we've been rambling on this about way too much. Let's talk a little bit about the news. Do you want to talk about the news?
My favorite news, and the only news I brought to the table, the Hogwarts Legacy.
Let's jump straight into that. We've been talking about video games. Let's talk about it.
Cool. Yeah, we need to do a video game episode.
We've not done one for a little while.
But look, this game, like, I can't wait to be like pulled back in, and I just hope that it's got like combat like Spider-Man. I said this like last week or something. I hope the combat's good. And it looks pretty good.
So interestingly, they did like a whole state of play in it. They did like a 15-ish minute.
I got 7 minutes in.
Long trailer.
I don't know if I want to watch anymore.
I don't want to know any more of it. I was like, this looks interesting and fun. And basically, we should have talked about this last week, to be perfectly honest with you, but it showed off a ton of gameplay and a bunch of features. Like, so we just hope it's not like, shoot, like, like one handguns type things.
Yeah, that would be a bummer.
But it looks like it's not, right? Like, it looks like they're doing different stuff with it. I don't know how.
It's going to be really dependent on like how the enemies interact with like different spells and how you may have to use different combinations of things to like, and maybe your environment. Right? Interesting. Like if you watch like Harry Potter the movies, like they're using the environment, they're transfiguring certain things into other things. I hope they get creative with it. Well, fuck off, Siri. No one asked you.
Siri.
But yeah,
get out of the room.
I'm all about it. It looks cool.
I'm excited. Like it's basically a brand new story, isn't it? Like you create your own story and all this stuff. So it's a brand new thing.
It's really the only way they could do it.
Because they couldn't set it in the Harry Potter time.
I mean, unless they were just gonna do the whole game, like the whole movie.
They've done that. They did it. They did games.
So unless it was like a remastered version of that, but like,
my favorite meme is still the Hagrid one. You know the Hagrid one where it's like
very
PS1
grainy.
Hagrid.
Yeah.
he's just like a board.
Yeah, it's like a square board.
Yeah, it's just one pixel for his entire face.
His beard is like 2 Lego blocks.
Yeah, that's still my favorite meme. I'll probably be buying that game. Look. We could go into a little bit about the sort of controversy around this at the moment. I don't want to touch on that. I don't know enough about the stuff that's been said and what hasn't been said. It's a game I'll be playing because I enjoy the world, not because I support J.K. Rowling in any way other than the fact she created this awesome world.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not going to talk about that either. I listen to Michael Jackson and he touched little children, so like that's my stance on this. Like, you got to
You still listen to MJ
to some degree. You got to separate the
Fair enough. I haven't listened to Michael Jackson in years.
I mean, for Chris D'Elia, you're not at the separation level. Like, you weirdly kind of groomed chicks, so I'm probably not going to watch your comedy specials. But like some things are, the art's bigger.
That's fair. Yeah. And I don't really associate her with the games, with any of the stuff outside of just the books. Like,
no,
not even the movies. Like,
at this point, it's bigger than
Kind of is. I think it's basically Warner Brothers who own it now. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, one thing that was shared with us last week by friend of the show, Steve, that we completely forgot to talk about. How did we forget to talk about the Obi-Wan trailer?
I don't think we did.
We forgot. We completely forgot.
I'm pretty sure I brought it up at some point.
I don't believe you did.
Well, I got to listen to our own podcast to
yeah,
confirm.
Maybe.
But I was.
Don't do any
it was
editing.
Definitely,
don't listen back to it.
Bro, it was definitely the only thing I had in news. So
it's
if I missed that,
we didn't talk about.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Maybe like you had so much that I was just overwhelmed by your knowledge, and just let you carry on the news segment. But it was good.
What do you think about the trailer? Sorry, friend of the show Ryan. My bad.
Yeah, friend of the show Ryan. Thank you. It is. It was good, man. I mean, like it seems as if we're gonna get like Obi-Wan leading them away from Tatooine and gonna go on this wild goose chase.
So you talk about the Inquisitors. So
yes. Leading the dark,
the bad guys,
the Sithy people.
Dun, dun,
yeah,
dun,
that song.
Dun, dun. Yeah, that's gonna be there, surely.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because there's been a lot of controversy about the Inquisitors. Apparently, they don't look like they did in the animated series, so people are getting really up in arms about it. I don't know what they look like. I think they look cool. I think they look good.
I don't even remember, but
And they've got those weird spinny lightsabers that like go round and round and round.
yeah, I mean, like Star Wars fans got to get over it at this point. They've gotten rid of the old canon, so it's like just let it lie.
Exactly, like chill out, guys.
Just
But
whatever.
it is also, it also gave away the big reveal that Vader's in this, right? Which
Well, they casted Hayden Christensen and
they brought him
announced it.
back.
Like, what do you mean it gave it
He
away?
could have been a Force ghost or something, though, right? No,
yeah, I
he
mean,
couldn't be. He was
like,
alive
but
at this point.
cheers, dude, come on.
I wondered if they were going
Yeah.
to do flashbacks, but it looks like it's going to be culminating a battle between those two. Like
I feel like he
the
wouldn't have
rematch.
done it unless he got to play Vader.
It's the rematch.
You know, he had the high ground.
He did.
I don't know if he does anymore.
He did have the high
Definitely
ground.
not the moral high ground, but
Well, I love Ewan McGregor in this. Like somehow he still looks amazing.
he looks the perfect age for what he should. In between where he was
It's like
and where
10 years before he should look like a 67, 65 plus year old man.
it's a stressful 10 years, man. Just being chased by Sith Lords every day of your life.
Well, you know what happened to
Is it 10 years? There's no
it's like-
chronological
yeah,
timeline.
there is.
Is there?
Star Wars fans would fight you.
But it's not canon, dickheads.
But you know what happened to the Emperor, right? When he got like electrocuted and he went really old and wrinkly. Maybe that
Yes.
happens to him and he turns into Alec Guinness somehow.
Maybe.
I'm excited for that.
Could
I
be.
think it looks good. That's the one Star Wars thing that I genuinely, outside of Mandalorian, I actually want to watch.
Have you heard anything about the Halo series?
I haven't. I've
Me neither. I texted my brother about it. He's like, I'm watching Halo, so you don't have to. Because I was like, I told him my fears.
We do have to watch it because we're
Yeah.
going to do it for the podcast.
No, I'm down. But like, he's like, so you don't have to. And I was like, yeah, that's fair. Like, I am going to watch it, but I like that summarizes my feelings on it 100%.
Right.
And he's like, I was like, so how is it? He's like, it's, sometimes it's a bit
Yeah,
cringy,
it's,
but I'm
yeah.
watching. Yeah.
Okay. I think they said they're going to take the helmet off. I forgot the main character's name. What's the main character called?
I was like,
forgot
what
the-
are you-
Master
what are
Chief.
you waiting
They're going to take the
for?
helmet off Master Chief.
Yeah, I mean, they do in the books
Do they?
when you meet him as a kid and they describe him. And yeah,
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Well,
Yeah.
that's apparently a big...
probably didn't even know there were books.
Big
but
fucking deal. I didn't know
I
there
was
were
a
books.
big nerd in
You mean books or comics?
in grade school. Well, they have both, but I'm pretty sure
Oh.
I read books.
Oh, wow. Were they
By Eric
choose your own
Nyland.
adventure novels?
No, Eric Nyland, man. They hired him to help build the lore. He was fucking good. I think he's written something else recently. What is? Let me look.
Interesting.
Eric Nyland. Anyway, keep going. What else? What else is on? What else? What are the?
There's a
news you
couple of
got?
bits of news before we move on. You
Yeah.
you come back with Eric Nyland in a moment. But did you hear this week? Did you see this week? Did you see the latest trailers for Moon Knight? Now I've stopped watching the trailers, but there were some really interesting parts, and this actually comes out at time of recording this week. But apparently, it doesn't actually tie into the MCU. Did you know that?
No.
Apparently, it's a separate thing because in one of the latest trailers, behind our boy Moon Knight, Oscar Isaac, the gorgeous Oscar Isaac,
They didn't.
there is a
know.
poster for Falcon and the Winter Soldier on a bus that goes behind him. So apparently, it's a separate thing.
No, they said that this story is independent of the broader universe, but it's still set in it. Like it could still.
That must be a retcon since because I mean there is literally a trailer like a poster for Falcon and the Winter Soldier behind him in one of the trailers.
So what's
So
wrong?
it's
with
on a bus that goes.
Oh,
Behind
so you're saying like
as in that show?
As in the show is
Yeah,
that. I thought you were saying. I was like,
exactly.
doesn't that mean that it is?
No.
Doesn't that mean that it is in the world? No, fair enough. I don't know, man. Like it's okay.
I don't care. I'm
Yeah,
excited
it's
for this
fine,
regardless.
yeah,
I hope
it's
this
fine.
is its own thing. To perfectly honest with you, I'd love them to have like a separate thing where maybe even like the Daredevils of the world can have a slightly more hardcore fighting setting. You know, like
Yeah.
that's what I want to see. Like that Daredevil series, maybe take him out of a corridor for once because he was just in fucking corridors
The whole time,
that
yeah.
whole series.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, did you also hear this
And
week?
parking
Speaking
lots.
of yeah, parking. That's all he's got. Parking lots and parking lots and corridors. Did you also hear, speaking of Marvel, that apparently What If Season 2 is going to be released this year, with the head writer effectively announcing on Twitter before removing his tweet, saying that they're going to see about this year. Do you think that's going to be tying into Doctor Strange 2 somehow?
It has to.
I think it has to too.
I mean, there was enough going on in the what ifs that is now in multiverse or universe. What is it?
Multiverse
Madness of universe.
Multiverse of
whatever
Madness.
The fuck it is. Yeah, sorry. The movie I'm very much looking forward to, but can't remember the name. They pulled the bad Strange.
The one
from
that
it.
I'm more looking forward to than you are.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
So we've heard. The they pulled the bad strange from it, so obviously it's connected.
You think so? I mean,
It was like the design was even similar.
Exactly the same.
Yeah, like so.
I'm really excited for that movie, man. Like that's out soon as well. That's literally the next few weeks. I'm so excited for that. It's
sweet.
End of April, I think. Anyway,
down.
What If season 2? I wonder if they'll stick to the same format because I actually missed one out last time. Do you remember the whole Gamora episode that was just completely cut, and then she turned up in the final episode? Everyone was like, "Where the fuck did she come from?"
Oh, so like, Gamora didn't actually have an episode.
So
I forget.
No, so she was supposed to, but it got cut to a 9-episode run because of COVID, basically. So they cut that Gamora.
But then she just got pulled
into
a
pivotal character.
Then she got pulled into like the climax.
Yeah,
You're right. It was kind of
random.
Yeah.
And also there was like a cool Tony Stark in that who had like a sort of Zakar style armor on. So it was basically the Hulkbuster armor, but it looked like he'd been on the world that Thor goes to in Thor Ragnarok. And I was like, I want to see that fucking episode. Give me an episode. Where's that stuff? But I wonder what the big threat's going to be this time. Do you reckon Ultron, whatever they called him, is going to bust out?
Maybe, or maybe it's the guy from King the Conqueror or something.
Imagine if he's
some version of him.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Imagine if he's just so almighty that he can jump between like these awesome animated universes and the real universe.
Yes.
That would be fucking
Agreed.
Cool. Agreed.
I agree. I'm down.
Brilliant.
I just want Loki season 2, to be honest. But.
I can't wait for that. Look, guys, if there is any news we haven't spoken about, much like friend of the show Ryan, hit us up at Podcast Assemble on Instagram or the Podcast Assemble at gmail.com. As always, let us know. There's just 2 final bits of DC news before we shimmy into our main topic, which I'm very excited to talk about.
DC news relevant. Anyway.
That's why I did it. It's a nice little segue. Two parts. Firstly, the Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League video game, which we've talked about a number of times, not to be confused with what's the other one? It's Gotham Knights. This one has been delayed till 2023 at least. To be honest with you, I am more interested in that Gotham Knights video game.
It's made by the same.
No, different developers, but I mean, it's both have 4 characters. Both have each character has different abilities and such. Not a huge deal. The biggest deal of the week in DC news, however, was shared with us by friend of the show, Matt. And did you see this week the deleted Joker scene from the Batman movie?
Yes, I saw it, and it was good. It was very, very interesting. I'll say that. It's funny that they didn't keep it in.
I don't know. I think it gave away pretty much the entire plot.
I don't think so.
I think so.
What did he give away? Well, it depends where you put it, obviously.
Exactly.
You just put it in the beginning, but
like the whole fact that they're pretty much like he thinks that Batman's part of his plan. Spoilers for the Batman, by the way.
I think
gives away a lot.
I think that like that part wasn't really like a twist. It was kind of like I don't know. I see why they cut it, but I guess like you could just change the dialogue and have that not be the case and still intro the Joker. I like the concept of him. I think you actually talked about it in our podcast, like interviewing the Joker.
You mentioned it, yeah.
Without like even knowing it was the Joker, and then later having it be him. Obviously, in this scene, you actually do know it's him. But
I think as a Joker, but you tell me what you think of Barry Keogh as a Joker.
Early to say, his laugh was good.
His laugh was good.
Yeah,
I liked his maniacal sort of like nature, like the fact he was clearly very calculated. I didn't like. I mean, it's very Heath Ledger, right? Like you can't get away from the fact that he's clearly doing a similar thing. But I really enjoyed it.
The way he was talking was very Heath Ledger. Like that. Like,
I wonder if that could be the prosthetics though.
Kind of mumbling.
Like,
I don't know.
It's clear, like holding his mouth open.
Yeah.
Like it's cool. I like the prosthetics. He looked kind of burnt.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Mate,
completely.
When I leave Bondi on a Saturday, I'm kind of burnt. Guy's fucking skin was falling off.
There's a really...
understatement of the year. He had like little wisps of hair from the burn marks.
Green ones though.
Yes, they were green.
There was a really interesting
wrinkle.
Dye
his hair in there.
There's a really interesting wrinkle that in the prison that not many people noticed apparently that when Batman gives him the file, it goes in with 2 paper clips and it comes out with 1. So how will he get out? Who knows?
I love when they do subtle shit like that.
I love it too. It's Easter eggs for nerds like us.
You know what? Knives Out did a lot of like little subtle. On a rewatch, I caught things, and I was like
the dog's barking.
The dog's barking, and you're like, well, who do they bark at? And it shows that multiple times that it's him.
Yep.
Like the Ransom, are you back already? Like the first time when it shows him leaving, she just watches him the grandma.
Oh,
The
she's
grandma
back
just
already.
watches him
Yeah,
leave,
yeah, yeah.
and then the second time it shows shows her saying that, meaning like, oh, he actually comes
He's
back.
already been
yeah.
there. Yeah. It's really interesting, really
Yeah.
good movie, and I like subtle things like that make cinema. That's why I
Yeah,
go
it's
back
great.
and keep watching.
It's subtleties. I think that anything well done has rewatch value because there's
Absolutely.
things that were subtly hinted at, but you really, you may have been able to guess some of them, but lots of them they were just out of reach.
Absolutely.
And then when you reread it again, you're like, oh, how did I not? Or it's like it's kind of like the best way to put it. I've heard someone else make a good analogy to this. It's like the perfect joke, right? Like from a comedian, like just as soon as you understand it, like was when you were supposed to. It's like the same way. It's like when
Yeah,
you
that's really
rewatch
cool.
something, you're like, oh, like
that's so good. I
Yeah.
like that a lot. Yeah, just as soon as
like you're supposed to catch it, like you're supposed to almost get it before the punchline, but it's like right after you cut it all
tip of
comes
your tongue.
together.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I like that a lot.
Anyway, I think that's what Game of Thrones, like the books, do really well when you reread them. Like
Stop talking about Game of
so
Thrones.
many things. You still haven't read the books.
I've read 3 of them.
Yeah, you gotta finish.
Right. Well, I'm not going to until it releases them.
I
What's the
won't.
point?
I will not stop talking about it until you finish them. But like, it's just great literary work, right?
You never stop talking about Game of Thrones, guys. We apologize in advance.
you
Look, speaking,
apologize.
Speaking of DC and all of the cool news we've just talked about, do you want to preface our main topic?
Peacemaker.
Yeah, baby.
Wasn't really a preface, just a full on.
No, you just told us what it
Unveil.
was. I'm all right with that. I'm all right.
Unveil.
We're not even got somebody. One of the friends of the show, I've no idea in front of me at the moment. Sorry, messaged us this week about bringing back the main topic theme, and I need to find a way to get a proper one because just us singing main topic.
I'm kind of over that. To be honest, I was over that like episode 3.
Episode 3,
and we did
yeah.
it for like 50 more. So that shows my patience level.
I wouldn't go as far as 50.
I'm
I'd
a
probably
saint.
say 10.
I am a saint.
Patience. You keep telling yourself
Patience of a saint.
that. You keep telling yourself that.
Do you have a
this is-
stupid
well,
plot
yeah.
summary of this here show, The Peacemaker, which is, by the way, an 8-episode show released on HBO.
Max.
Yeah, HBO Max.
Based on the Suicide Squad character Peacemaker, who
Yeah,
is
same
played by
universe.
John Cena, who is
Yeah.
fantastic in this. Yeah, I do. To get mine, you kind of have to have a knowledge of the show, but
Well, I mean, I don't know
I
why you
really
listened to this if
struggled.
you didn't actually have any interest or watch the show.
yeah.
Like,
I really struggle with this one because I didn't know how to make it more stupid than it already
yeah,
is.
it's pretty hard.
Like it's pretty nuts. So mine is people you'd be wrong to expect would have a better show than this random Z-list character: Ariana Grande, Drake, Brad Pitt, Payne Stewart, Doug the Pug, Kim Kardashian, Khloe Kardashian, the Red Tiger from
you really
Voltron.
went there.
I literally have a list of them here, but you get the joke, right?
Yeah, you went there. They kept going in the after scene of that.
I can keep
for
going
like
with
30
that.
seconds.
Joe Montana, Joe Montana, Eddie Murphy, Michael Jordan, Michael B. Jordan, BTS,
I think he literally used
Eugene
that one.
Levy, Danny DeVito, Will Ferrell, Howard Stern, and the last one was Bill Cosby. But I was like, I don't think you could give Bill Cosby a TV show anymore.
Yeah, but you could say its name on one.
Yeah, you could. You
fair
get
enough.
the joke.
The joke. There's a part where
We'll talk
John,
about it in a minute.
John Cena just goes on. Mine's I took a
What's
different
yours?
approach. Peacemaker, just your average morally absent hit squad murdering their way to the moderate meeting of middle minds, middle ground political sentiment America will never see in its true leaders.
Say Middlemore in a sentence.
Moderate meeting of the minds, middle ground political sentiment.
Some lovely alliteration there. I
Yeah.
loved that. That was fantastic.
Basically, these murderers are more, they are able to come to a middle ground between
They've got the higher ground.
between Peacemaker's absurd, macho, what is the word? Machismo and like, the white privilege, like
Yeah.
you recognize the white privilege, liberal snowflake style. They meet in the middle.
It's crazy.
And they're assassins. So why can't our political system do that? Anyway.
I just love this show so much that it does all these weird things. But before we get into it, can you tell me what the IMDb score is for this?
8.2.
Ooh, close. It was an 8.5. What about the Rotten Tomatoes?
Why do I always say 8.2?
I don't know. You do. You
I
do
do.
like
I
a
go to the
0.2.
2.2.
You do. Anything good's an 8.2 in your eyes.
for IMDb.
It's like you're scared of going higher.
Because IMDb is so ruthless.
It is pretty ruthless, yeah. But that's a pretty good one, 8.5.
Yeah.
What do you reckon for Rotten Tomatoes?
90.
It's 95.
90.
Yeah. Now, okay, Metacritic, the one that brings it down usually.
8.2. 82.
It's 70%. Now, the
What?
really interesting thing about this is so similar to the...
Metacritic sucks, dude.
This is so similar to when we did the Batman. Listen to this. The Batman was 8.5, 85, and 72. Like, it's the same.
Fuck Metacritic.
I don't know, man. Like, when it's a bad
What
movie...
is good on Metacritic?
When it's a bad movie, they'll just tear it to pieces, and I'd prefer someone to tell me it's bad than go, yeah, it's really good.
Yeah,
and
but
it
like,
not be good.
when is what like by the standards of Metacritic? Sorry, I'm just like going
Oh,
a
yeah.
little bit of an aside and maybe a little rant. By the standards of Metacritic, what is a fucking good movie?
Aquaman,
Like
2018.
Casablanca? Like they're gonna have just something from the 50s that no one wants to
Probably.
watch.
Who knows? But it's a mix of the two scores, right? It's a mix of like the...
None of the scores were in the 70s.
All right.
What other scores is it considering?
I have no idea. Look, this is
Probably
a move.
Pitchfork.
This is based on the James Gunn property that he did Suicide Squad. He also directs and wrote all of this. Got some really fun trivia about that coming up in a moment. You've got John Cena. You've got a bunch of people who are now really big. Robert Patrick's back this from Terminator 2. He is the T-1000 himself.
Yeah, didn't know that.
He's fantastic in this. And it's just such a good little cast. And we talked about it when we talked about Boba Fett. The fact that they have this really tight cast that they just literally... They just work the cast basically. They just make sure that everyone has their full arc in the show, and it's just really well done. Now, before we move on to the next part of the show, do you want to tell me which of these, Dre, do you think is the goofiest of the IMDb picks? You're fully aware of our current MVP, who's from Interstellar. It's Mark Kazimir-Dinovitz Jr., who has probably the best IMDb credit of all time, which is uncredited NASA inspector, which is terrible. He looks like he's out of a Guns N' Roses musical. We've talked him to death, but he's still doing pretty well. We have a challenger this week.
Let's see it.
We have a challenger. Can you tell me if you think that Lenny Jacobson, who plays Evan Calcaterra, I have no idea what that means in the show. I don't know who that is. He plays Evan Calcaterra in the show. Do you think he's goofier or less goofy than our current winner? It was a really hard field. There weren't very many.
I mean,
he's not really goofy. It just really made me laugh.
I mean, it's funny.
I feel like he's just come out of like auditioning for Head and Shoulders ad. And
I was
he's
gonna
doing,
say
like,
it seems like a
over-the-shoulder
90s
whisper.
pop punk boy band.
Yeah.
Like this was like an album cover, and like this is just the front man to that band.
It absolutely is. He could be the Callings lead singer.
Yeah, or
whatever
like
his
what is
name
that other one? Like they all sounded the same. I
I
can't remember any of their
Callings
names.
the
to
one
be
I think
honest-
'cause he's got
to
the
be
blonde hair. Yeah.
honest. Yeah.
Well, what do you think then? Are we sticking with Kazimir Dinovitz
I think
Jr.?
I have to stick with Kazimir.
He's
Dinovitz
just the
Jr.
bomb.
Yeah.
He's pushing Ray Buchanan at the moment.
Yeah, but if you
For any of
challenged, I think Ray would win.
I think so too.
Ray would.
For any of our old heads who'll remember us talking about Ray Buchanan,
I
we
think
should just have him as our Instagram.
I think we should
profile
have an
picture.
MVP. Like this guy's he's been running for 4 weeks. Like I think we need
We'll
to
take
have
him off next week.
I just think we need to have like it's almost like a tournament.
Yeah, right.
He's a long-standing winner. Separate him and then eventually put him up against Ray in a tournament for the goofiest IMDb picture.
All right, we should come up with like three separate levels they
Like
have to
little
be
brackets?
judged on. Yeah, exactly. All right, let's do this. So we've got those two. So we're taking Dinovitz Jr. out of it now, and maybe when we've got two more who've done it for 4 weeks in
Yeah.
a row, we bring them back and have
And
a world
it'll just be
championships.
like a proper
March Madness. Great.
Yeah.
What we'll do is we'll put that on our Instagram. We'll do a little poll. Last time out, I know that that Mark I can't even say his name anymore. Dinovitz Jr. won the poll on Instagram, so the listeners agree with us, which is good to know in this very visual section that we still for some reason do. Now, do you want to talk about the plot of the show? Tell me what happens. What happens?
Yeah, I mean, we follow Peacemaker, the man who will seek peace at any cost, no matter how many men, women, and children he must kill to achieve it. As his Black Ops cronies kind of continue on pretty much shortly thereafter from...
Pretty much directly after. Yeah, he wakes up in hospital.
Suicide Squad ending. They pull him back in just when he thought he was out.
Just when he
They
thought he
pull
was
him
out.
back in into another national emergency that no one can know about.
Yeah, Task Force
pretty much.
X.
Yeah, that's I think a great little intro, and they together try and stop this national emergency.
Yeah, I think it sort of has a bunch of different alleys to the show, like a bunch of different focuses, and the key one really is that it kind of plots his exploration and sort of reflection on who he is and sort of like who he was forced to be growing up, and whether that's who he is or whether he wants to be someone different. But you also have all this other drama going on. You got the Task Force X drama happening. You've got Amanda Waller pulling the strings subtly in the background, but they don't really know it.
Yeah.
You've got the Butterflies, who are the main antagonist of the piece, going on around it. Are they infiltrating the task force? Who knows? But yeah, I really like this show, man. Like, just I know I wax lyrical about it. I'd love to know your holistic thoughts on it.
Look, I think it mainly was just like well casted and quite funny.
Okay.
Like you talked about a couple plot points, but like really, there wasn't that much going on with the plot. Like it was.
I think it was a lot of character exploration.
No, there was character dynamics, but like the actual plot was like, hey, here's this band of misfits taking out, an existential threat.
Yeah.
That was it. Like there wasn't like a lot of ducking and weaving. Like pretty much there was a couple of funny twists, like and weird twists, but that was still, even when those twists happened, they didn't really change the plot direction.
I mean, they were following the same motive the whole way through. I understand
it was
that.
just straight line to where they were going.
I understand that, but
it's not an insult. It's more just saying like the reason this was good was because of the casting, the characters, their performances, and the dialogue. Like,
and that's what drives the show. And I think the first thing that really drew me in, like immediately, was the opening credit song.
It's so good.
And apparently
it must be one of the best.
James Gunn apparently just said that he just wanted to create an unskippable opening for a TV show.
It actually is.
I watched it every single time.
It is unskippable.
Every single time.
It's actually so
perfect.
Funny. And I remember thinking like, wow, am I going to skip this? And I was like, no, I kind of just want to. I started watching a different character the whole way through because they're so fucking funny.
They're all just so good. They're all so into, and they all have
so into it.
None of them are good dancers, which makes it even funnier.
No, none of them are bad dancers either. Like they do this bad dance really well.
Yes,
like
that's what I'd say.
Yeah,
and then Eagly's in it too. The whole thing, man. Like,
do you really want to taste it?
That's another part. That's one of the things we're going to talk about in a minute. The music to this show is just fire.
Yeah,
and
it's well integrated into the characters.
It's so James Gunn, though.
Yeah,
so James Gunn. And I love the fact that he built a lot of Peacemaker's personality around the music he listens to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not just like the soundtrack. It's like built into the backstory and like kind of personality of the characters you watch.
It's got this big hair rock sort of vibe to it, which just makes it, which also like sort of helps Peacemaker's character, because the point is he's been in prison for so long and he's come out, and the thing he still listens to is
because like no one listens to this anymore. Like 80s hair metal.
I'm not gonna lie to you, I genuinely listen to 80s hair rock.
Not that many.
On the reg. I have a playlist on Spotify.
My point being,
on
like these guys until this movie came out, their royalty, money makers were my mom,
big time,
you, and James Gunn apparently. Well, like, it's like the entire soundtrack is hair metal.
Interestingly, the band who did the "Do You Want to Taste It," they're not actually from like the 70s or 80s. They're actually from 2005, and they had an entry in the 2005 Eurovision Song Contest. Not the same song, a different one, but. Like, how mad is that? Like, that glam metal sound is still around. Like, it's still thriving.
Yeah, I mean, like, the emo sound's still around. You got, like, a resurgence of that. Like,
that's true.
I mean, like, there's going to be people still doing it, but I'm just surprised that I thought that was just a song from
me too.
Mom's, like,
absolutely. Yeah. There's one... I don't want to talk about it yet. I'm going to wait for spoilers. I was going to talk about it in spoilers, and I'll wait for it, but...
How about you talk about it?
I have there is one glaringly, like, massive issue with this show. And I'm gonna hold off till we get to spoilers, because it is quite spoilerific, and you can't talk about it without. But the whole time I was watching it, I was just thinking, is no one gonna address this? And it never got addressed the whole way through.
Was it like a plot hole, or
we'll talk about it when we get there.
Okay.
So talk to me a little bit about the performances. Then you mentioned John Cena already.
I mean, like obviously John Cena like is the main dude, and he's like quite good. But I would argue that like the main, like him and the Viz.
Vigilante.
Are like...
Oh my god, he's so good.
The Vig. Is it the Vig? Is that
Vigilante.
I thought they called him the Viz.
Maybe they do.
Yeah. But it is Vigilante is the main name. Who, by the way, Freddie Stroma, a.k.a. Cormac McLagan.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Is he really?
It is.
I did not know that. I saw that he was in Harry Potter. I didn't realize it was the same guy.
He's like the Hufflepuff guy that like... is like kind of a dick to Ron in like one of the...
Yeah, that's it. He No, he's not Hufflepuff. He's a Gryffindor. He goes for keeper.
Well, maybe he is Gryffindor. Yeah, sorry, he is Gryffindor. He's Gryffindor.
God, I didn't realize it was him.
Yeah.
Wow, I know too much about Harry Potter.
Yeah. But you knew Cormac McLagan. Well, it's a pretty funny name, McLagan.
He's probably my favorite part of the show.
Oh, mate, I would say that he kind of steals the show. And like the other characters also good, like Heartland and or Harcourt and
Hardcore,
and like even Danielle Brooks from Orange Is the New Black. She's good,
really good
for sure. But like to be honest, like the Cena and the Viz are like steal the show.
I feel like Steve Agee, he's actually a comedian. He plays with John Economist character. Diebeard. I think he's great in this. Like,
Diebeard, I haven't
yeah,
that as well.
He's got
Annie
like
Chang also I thought was quite good.
Yeah, me
like
too.
Their dialogue sequences when she wasn't. Well, I'll stop there. The dialogue sequences like in the first half of the show, where she's like trying to find Peacemaker and dealing with the dad.
So she's the cop, right?
She's the main cop.
Well,
like
you say there isn't much going on in the show, but there is. Like, so there's this main
there's
plot.
like subplots, but like the main plot is the main. Like, you know, it doesn't.
Yeah, there is this subplot whereby essentially in the first episode, and this comes back to the joke I made about my stupid plot summary. So what happens is Peacemaker sort of semi-accidentally, semi-on-purpose murders this person, and then there's this police hunt to try and find him. And what John Economist does, the Steve Agee character, he essentially like frames Peacemaker's dad for it, and it turns out Peacemaker's dad is this like neo-Nazi white supremacist crazy ass dude
that was a superhero as well.
Yeah, Robert Patrick. Could he be called a hero? He's more of a villain, surely.
I mean, but like he was like by the extent of a superhero. I mean, like he was a guy that tried to fight crime.
Okay,
apparently was like basically racist.
Yeah, he was massively racist. Like, well, that folds a bit into the show that I think really works is the fact that when he confronts John Economist about this, and he goes through the list of people who he could have fingered instead of his dad. I just like there is clearly like a riffing, ad hoc nature to this show where there are parts of it where there's a lot of TV shows and movies where the cast are clearly allowed to do whatever the fuck they want. It doesn't quite work. Yeah. Whereas with this, they keep just enough of the riffing in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
just enough of the ad-libbing to make it funny. And I love that about this because it's kind of...
and also he's such a ridiculous character.
Such a ridiculous
character. It's like more believable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he's going through all the list of names. There's apparently like an extended cut where he goes on for like 5 minutes. I fucking love that about this. But yeah, I think outside of like, you know, the main ones, your Vigilantes, John Cena, etc. Like Robert Patrick is really good in this as the dad, as the racist dad we just talked about.
Yeah. He's
really good. Steve Agee we mentioned already. Like as a small cast of characters, I think it does them a lot of justice, everyone.
No, it does. And that's part of like that's why the subplots work. That's why the subplots work. Yeah. Just because it's like it is pretty grounded in the characters and like it moves somebody forward in some way each time you go to a new subplot.
Eagly's my favorite character. So for context,
I kind of got over like the amount of attention that Eagle was getting, to be honest.
He would go out for like an episode though, then he'd come back in the next one. I quite like they didn't just front and center him the whole time. So for context, Peacemaker has a pet eagle as his like sidekick, and it's amazing. Like it's so random.
It is random, but like that's the show. It's pretty fucking random.
Do you know what's funny? I forgot to mention this before. The intro to it, someone did like a Lego version of it, like literally like frame for frame copy of it, and it is amazing. I actually posted it on our Instagram a little while ago. I'll have to. Of course, someone did.
Like the world is crazy, isn't it?
It's so good. It's totally worth like finding out. So, what did you think of like the pacing of this then? Like, it's only 8 episodes.
Man, it was good. Like I kind of burnt. I wanted to watch it faster than I did because I wanted to like. I was enjoying it so much that I wanted to save it. Does that make sense? So I held back, but I just think it was like there was not a lot of over the top action, which you know, mostly just really good comedy and writing, and there was really very few filler episodes.
Yeah, agreed.
Like that's a good thing. I was trying to think of like what would the filler episode be, and I couldn't really think of it. There was like one I guess where like. You know, Viz goes to jail.
Yeah, to try and kill the dad.
But it was like so funny that like I didn't even notice that it was filler. You know what I mean? It wasn't really filler. It was just like kind of our first real long time with Viz alone. And you're like, oh, this guy's fucking hilarious. Kind of good. Like he's good for Peacemaker.
I really like the character motivation of him where he was trying to keep his superhero and his like identity separate. Like it was so funny. And like when he got like his toe nearly chopped off and he's like it was a football accident, completely unrelated. It's so good. Like that whole character just gets me every time. But yeah, I completely agree with you. I thought it was really sharply paced. None of it felt like filler. I felt like when you got to like the final episode, even with the final battle, which we'll talk about in spoilers, like it was a testament to how much he was doing with probably a quite small budget that it felt, even though it was a very small scale battle, and a lot of the budget probably went into like the CGI for some of the not great CGI.
Worm.
Yeah, whatever it was. I felt like it did a lot with what was probably quite a small budget, and I thought that really helped keep the show really like chopping. Where we joked about Daredevil being in corridors, this was mainly in like that one room where
Their shitty base.
Yeah, their base, or a
shitty
truck
base.
driving somewhere, or a car driving
True.
somewhere.
Like
that was all it
90%
was.
of
Yeah.
the set was in a car or in a shitty room.
And I love that. I thought that worked really well. So let's talk about the cinematography and the world building then. Like I think because I was kind of leaning into anyway there. I think based on the fact that it was set in such like a minute subsection of what they could have used, I thought it worked really well.
Yeah, I don't think there was a ton of like world building per se. I just think it was like a really focused on the characters, and there wasn't a lot of, you know, in Marvel where there's like combat and cinematography and you're like, all right, this is the part where I'm gonna kind of like zone out because it's just like there wasn't any of that.
Okay.
So I kind of enjoyed it more for that. Like every moment was like, you know, dialogue that I was intrigued by. So I didn't see it as like, without spoiling things, this big, you know, world, like we're gonna have this massive world around Peacemaker. Although you could. I thought it was like better because it wasn't that.
Okay.
It was basically just like, we have this mission and we have to deal with these idiots, and these idiots have subplots because they're idiots.
Yeah.
And we got to get to the end goal, right? Like
there were a lot of interesting like nuggets dropped, like Easter eggs dropped in the dialogue. So like you speak about dialogue a lot, and there was so many like references to other characters, like Mr. Mixus Pitalik, who I can never say his name. Who will never appear in anything.
There was a ton
ever.
of other like superhero related.
I love that he just tore into all the different superheroes. He was like, Aquaman pays SeaWorld to go and fuck fish in the back or something. It's like and every single one of them had a different.
Superman have like a fucking like death? Like what did he? It was some weird fetish.
Something like, well, they all have a weird thing.
Yeah, it was like
It's so it's the one they didn't rip into seems to be Wonder Woman. I thought that was a little bit interesting.
And, it is true. They didn't touch her.
And apparently they weren't allowed to use Batman for one reason or another. And I think that's probably because it was coming out so close to the Batman movie. So they weren't allowed to say anything about Batman.
But
we'll
talk about it later.
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
I genuinely really loved it. Like I say, the action felt tight. Like there were times when they were doing one-on-one fight stuff where, for example,
it was always based in comedy. Like when he fought the Kung Fu guy.
Judo master. Yeah. And like, but that, I feel like every character was representative of how they were built. And by that, what I mean is, so Peacemaker is just like, he's John Cena. He's just a massive wall of muscle. He's clearly not going to be as like agile as the little judo master who was like 5 foot tall.
Very small, yeah.
And it was interesting that but it was interesting that Judo Master was doing pretty well by how lithe he was and like dancing around him. But then all of a sudden, just picked him up. Peacemaker just picked him up and smashed him into the car. Like how a fight like that would actually happen, you know? I was always like, this is how I imagine this going down.
Yeah.
So I really like that about it.
I think the action was like equal. It was never too much, and it was always like based in the comedy of the moment.
And they didn't go too far into the superhero-y stuff. Like I liked the helmets Peacemaker had, so he had a bunch of different helmets.
They were barely used.
And they were barely used, and that was great. So like in the without going
KB's helmet.
Yeah, without going too deep into it, in the final episode, he has a bunch of the helmets, and none of them are particularly useful.
No,
and it's fun. It's really
one of them is, I guess. It's the only one that really gets used. To be fair,
you find out later on. And the CGI, we talked about it, like it's clearly a TV budget, right?
Yeah. It wasn't bad. There wasn't even that much of it.
The cow thing.
Yeah, but that was like one thing for like one episode. I get it.
Yeah, not great. It's like I don't think it didn't need to lean on it, and that's kind of the point. I don't feel like it needed. It didn't need big CGI set pieces because of the world it was set in and how it was all set up.
And the cow thing is almost supposed to be so ridiculous that you don't believe it's a thing. It's like, what?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go with that. Before we move on then, do you have any tones and or themes?
That's what I was going to move on to. So,
what timing?
It's the classic.
It's almost like we've done this before.
Yeah. It's the classic James Gunn, like, found family theme.
He does love a found family theme, doesn't he?
It's like all of his...
And a shitty dad. He loves every single character in that Suicide Squad movie has a shitty dad.
Yeah. It's that classic one. And then I would say, like, there's also, like, a theme or maybe a motif of, like, freedom of choice versus the greater good.
I got nature versus nurture, which is a very similar point.
Like, also that with Peacemaker in particular.
Absolutely. That's
that's a massive theme. You're right.
That's his like complete arcs throughout the whole series.
Yeah, and then he deals with a lot of the different political stuff, right? Like he definitely touches on. He doesn't really make a statement one way or the other, but he definitely touches on it and how these things interact. And I think he does kind of make a statement on it because Peacemaker seems to acknowledge every time he's showing lots of white privilege. Like,
I
you know,
think,
like he
yeah.
does, because if he didn't acknowledge it, then I'd be like, well, what are you trying to say? But because he does, and he grows as a character,
Yeah.
he kind of points to like, this is what like white America needs to do.
Agreed. I think of his arc through the
Yeah.
show is exactly that. His arc through the show leads to him sort of acknowledging, you
Yeah.
know, his own
His own
privilege, and
fucking
it's good.
dickheadery. Yeah.
It touched on a lot of pretty intense themes without in a humorous way without downplaying them, if that makes
Totally,
sense. I think
totally.
it does that really well. So give me 3 best and 3 worst.
The music, the
Literally my first
the
one.
comedy,
Yeah.
and I guess the smaller scale in general, and like how it all plays in together, like with the characters.
All right. So mine is music, the humor, and character focus.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
It had to be at some
yeah,
point.
fair
we got
enough.
the
I mean,
same
like we
one.
just talked about it all, so let's not
Yeah. But I
belabor the
think,
point.
yeah. So what are your negatives then? What are your 3 worst? Because I really
think, like,
struggled.
Yeah, a lot of them I can't really say because they're spoilers, but I guess like honestly none of them I can say. There was lots of build-ups like that, like they were hinting that we're gonna have these major effects on the story that really
Okay.
just didn't
Okay.
have that big of an effect.
We'll
on
talk
the
about that in a
story.
minute, but I didn't really feel that. But it's interesting you did.
Yeah, and then no, I don't know. We can cut this if you think we need to. No deaths,
Interesting.
literally no deaths, minus the one dude.
There
but
was some deaths.
there was one.
Not of the main
There was one.
set of characters.
There was one from the main set.
Okay. Yeah, right.
Yeah. And it wasn't even that like it was like the one you would care least about.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I did think there was going to be a major death at the
I
end
thought
of it.
because of James Gunn you'd for sure.
I thought he was going to go
not
that way.
necessarily a negative, but just an observation.
No, yeah, that's certainly
Um,
interesting.
I mean, I guess it is 3 worse, so it is a negative.
Yeah, it literally fits within that hemisphere.
And then like I think those are the 2 that I could come up with. I couldn't really come up with 3. I have like 3 that are 1, but we can't talk about it yet.
Okay.
so
Well, I
wait.
mean, yeah, my main one I'm going to talk about when we get to spoilers, but I also not similar to what you said there. I think it occasionally became a bit predictable. Like you were a bit like
that's what I meant. Like the build-ups were like I already knew.
Yeah,
what was
you
gonna
could
happen.
kind of see. But
Yeah.
then I think that's just having seen so many of James Gunn's recent films and understanding the tropes he puts in. Like
Well,
we joked about him having the sort of family, like, a terrible family fetish. Like it's
Yeah.
true. Like you're sort of getting used to it now. You could do with maybe changing it up a little bit. But all right, let's do that. Let's do this big final question then. Is this better than Aquaman 2018?
Aquaman fucks fish, so it's way better. That's fucking fucked up.
He says he does.
Yeah. Well, he acknowledged it. Well, he acknowledged the rumor.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second. But is it better or worse than the movie?
It's better.
It is way better than Aquaman 2018.
Of course.
And ironically, spoilers for this from now on. Ironically, Aquaman appears in this.
He's like the only one
literally.
in it.
No, well, it's got Barry, whatever his name is, the Flash guy.
It does have him, and it has like the outline of Gal Gadot.
Yes.
And honestly,
And
the
the outline
outline
of Superman.
of Batman as well. There is an outline of Batman. They don't
there?
mention him though.
Interesting. I
Like
didn't realize he
there was
in it.
one. It was the whole Justice League.
Interesting.
He's like, "Oh, wait, I get here late, asshole."
So to preface this, what happens is at the very end, just as everything's finished and they win the big final battle, the Justice League show.
Yeah,
And it's sort of answering that question of why don't you bring in the Avengers to every single Marvel movie?
Yeah, it's like the shadow, and it's like the shadows. The only one that actually is like you get a full view of is
Well, you get the Flash and Aquaman.
yeah, is the Flash and Aquaman.
And Flash basically takes a piss out of him for fucking fish.
Yeah, and they're both about to have new movies, so you can see why. Like
Of
they're the only ones
course.
that are guaranteed to
Of
have
course.
movies. So like confirmed in the DC universe.
Well, it is.
Yeah,
It always was. So
Was
it's
it?
the Suicide Squad movie.
was it though?
I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah,
I don't know with these movies anymore. They're a bit all over the place, aren't they? I really like that cameo, and I thought it gave a lot of credence to, you do always say that if you've seen things like this. Like, this is a world-ending
well,
event.
that's the humor, right? Like
Yeah, exactly. And,
Yeah,
I
it's
really
par
appreciate
for the
that.
course for this show.
So we talked about the plot, and we didn't really go into it in much detail, but the kind of main plot is these butterflies which take over humans, right? So they,
Kind of like a parasite.
yeah, they
When it
basically
goes into you, you die.
basically bury into them, you die, and then you become part of the collective, and they are trying to save the cow, which is sort of their food source, right? And our sort of Task Force X find out about this cow, and they're then going to move it, and it's trying to get
The
there.
cow is the only thing that can feed the butterflies.
Exactly.
Without the
It's
cow, they die.
the last thing from their planet, and this is my massive issue of this film. This is it. Like, this is the problem. This is just effectively the same thing as Suicide Squad was. It's a parasite, but you become part of the collective. You die when it comes in you, and they've got to stop it. It's the same thing.
It's a bit different.
It's the same thing with a twist on the end.
It's a bit different, but
it's not the same.
No, it's a bit different because like it is very similar, but it's the difference is like one was like a mindless thing that wanted to kill fucking everyone after. Actually, it wasn't mindless.
No, he didn't. He just didn't. He just wanted to be left alone.
But he wasn't, was he?
He was not.
No, you're right. It is very similar, and it's also like this big, like the CGI was quite similar too.
It was exactly the same. Yeah, I don't think the cow was controlling them though. That's probably the main difference. I think it was just their food source.
But also, like, what does the cow eat?
Great question.
That's the plot hole. I thought you were.
That is a big plot hole. What does it eat?
Like, is it the only one that doesn't eat?
That's so weird. I didn't
Something
even think about that.
Yeah, like how does it survive?
How does it shit?
I mean, I don't care how it shits. I just care how it survives.
How does it survive? Look, I'm clearly nitpicking in that respect. Like I genuinely like this, but it was like a parasitic mind control thing, which
But it wasn't really the villain. Like the villain was the dad.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like it was like the antagonist, but not really.
The villain with the butterflies. They were trying to take over the world.
Not really. Like,
yeah,
it's
You're
like
talking about subplot.
It's the classic James Gunn thing. Like there's an antagonist and there's like the real antagonist. Like there's like the character antagonist, which was like I would say Peacemaker's dad and Amanda Waller. Fair. And then like the fake antagonist is like this misunderstood monster. Like that's what he did. You're right. In Suicide Squad, I feel like that's he doesn't really do it as much in Guardians. I'm trying to remember each one, but there's like
been two.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Each of them.
I agree with you. I would have loved it if there had have been some reference to Amanda Waller having some connection to the T1. I'm going to call him the T1000 to Peacemaker's dad. Like that would have made
more sense because like it would have been, that was my complaint. Like lots of buildups that didn't really surprise or change anything. Yeah. Like the whole Amanda Waller putting her kid in, like, okay, like that amounted to literally one argument.
You knew it was going to be that all along.
That's all it was, though. Yeah. I thought it was going to have a bigger overarching thing. Like, she's the one doing it. Like, why did she do it?
Yeah.
All just
she needed the money, apparently.
But, like, all just to prove that Peacemaker was, like, there was no need to do that. He was already in custody. What was the point of making him look like an incel? Like, it really didn't amount to anything.
I didn't really understand that either.
Yeah.
I did enjoy the subplot with his father probably more than the main subplot with the butterflies.
Yeah.
And so the interesting thing about that subplot is that John Cena essentially gets his revenge and shoots his dad in the head, which is... It's a nice scene because he sort of like breaks out of who he was being told he was being at the time.
Yeah, but it ties well back to his origin story.
Yeah, but the most interesting part I found of that was the after effects. There was that now that's sort of like his conscience or like a bad conscience, which is sort of
the Jiminy Cricket anti-Jiminy Cricket.
So interesting.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed that.
I also thought like the lover, what was her name?
Adebayo's
partner.
Yeah,
like I just thought that plot like didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of like, okay, like I like give it more then. Like
she was just there to be the whiny girlfriend.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
It didn't really like need to even exist.
It was an odd one. I mean, outside of having were they dogs or cats? Outside of
because it was also kind of ridiculous. Like you wouldn't just do this for the money. Like this is actually like what levels above.
You say that though. Imagine you were pretty broke and like someone turned around to you and went, "Give you $1 million. All you got to do is."
I guess, but they like made real light of it.
Yeah.
You know, like it should have been a harder thing for her then.
True.
Like she was making real light of it. I'm like, what is this is really casual. You're just killing people now.
I felt like she was just resigned to doing it. Like she's like, it took her so much to do it that she finally snapped and she was doing it. So she just resigned herself to whatever happens type thing.
Yeah.
And then she obviously has an arc throughout the show of getting to the point where she's done these horrible things and she does not want to do this anymore. Yeah. So that's kind of cool. I like that as well. I thought her arc was done really well.
I didn't think her arc was bad. I didn't understand. Like it just kind of felt like you didn't need these other characters in it.
Yeah.
And it could, like, I don't know.
Did you like the hardcore Peacemaker will they won't they? I kind of liked that was kind of, I mean that's your Peter Quill and Gamora, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry, I thought you said the hardcore. Yeah, I thought it was good, but like they didn't end up doing anything, right?
No, but I like that.
There's little hand action.
Little hinted
holding of the hands.
I thought she was going to die. I really did.
Same. I thought she was toast.
I think it would have been better if I think she's James Gunn's partner, if not wife.
Oh, I thought she was dead.
I did too.
You know she's also in Zombie Stripper.
Really?
A movie that I definitely want to see.
I've never even heard of the film Zombie Stripper.
Neither have I until I looked up her IMDb, but
she must be
top list.
Yeah, great. Perfect. She is the Zombie Stripper.
She's Zombie Stripper. She's also in what was the other one? There was Zombie Stripper Brightburn, the other superhero movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, she's in Brightburn. I need to see it. I've been wanting to watch that for ages.
I never saw it, but she's in it.
You've
I
just
know. I'll tell you which one I'm watching first.
Which, tell me.
Zombie Stripper.
I'm
of
watching
course.
Brightburn. I don't know, actually. Brightburn's got Elizabeth Banks in it, and I'm not a big fan of her.
Nah,
She's all right.
can't win them all.
Yeah, she's fine. So, like, getting back to it, I really like the dynamic of the sort of growing family vibe. I think that's a very James Gunn. And then you've got the two who are like, will they, won't they? And you've got Diebeard, who's like the geeky other one, and
You know what it is?
it's real fun.
James Gunn is actually really. It's similar to Marvel in the sense that like it's formulaic,
Yeah,
but it's just like more. It's just as funny as like the best funny Marvel ones, but less like kiddie.
yeah.
It's kind of the same
Yeah.
thing. Like it's just a
It's
little.
Guardians of the Galaxy without the kid in it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just what he's doing with DC. It's just like more adult.
Yeah, I'd be intrigued to know where it goes with the second, with the second one, because
What, the second Suicide Squad?
no, the second episode of Peacemaker, because it's
Oh, is he doing another one?
It's renewed for a sec.
But is he writing it?
Good question. I'm not
Yeah.
entirely sure, because there's a great piece of trivia about that. If you would like to
Let's
scoot
do it.
on to trivia super quickly, I mean, we talked a lot about this. I don't think there's any more to cover in spoilers, right?
No, I think we're good. There wasn't. That's what I'm saying. There wasn't like most of this plot you knew. I mean, the main guy running the squad is a butterfly. That was the main thing, and they were trying to actually save humanity. We didn't talk about that, but
I mean,
really didn't have a lot of relevance.
it didn't have a lot of relevance to the plot. Like, he died really quickly,
Like we got that discovery, and then they died
immediately.
Immediately after that
You,
reveal.
you didn't have enough time to emotionally connect with it, really.
Which was
outside.
kind of the funny part. Like I think that was actually purposeful. It was like, and then
Probably.
Peacemaker just kills him. He's like, America, freedom. We get to choose our
America.
idiotness. You know?
Yeah.
Like, I think that actually might have been a point he was making. Anyway.
So trivia, super quickly then.
Yeah.
James Gunn wrote the entire first season in 8 weeks during the COVID quarantine out of pure boredom,
True.
not actually believing the series would ever get picked up.
Well, I don't know about the last part, but true.
It's all true, yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't believe it was going to get picked up. He just wrote out boredom, just like the character, so he just ran with it.
So
I love that about James Gunn.
Yeah,
He
that's
picks these
epic.
weird characters.
That's epic. I mean, usually that's like the creative spark. When something inspires you, just run with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Don't
And he picks
stifle
it, he finds it in the weirdest places. All right. So the show producers cite the drama Breaking Bad as an influence for the show.
Odd.
Hmm.
I mean, like maybe, but like don't really see that. I'm gonna say false.
It's actually Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
They liked the personal nature of it and how it was very.
I never
focused
saw
on a bit of
that,
a
but
down
I've
and
heard
out.
good things.
Haven't seen it either. It's
Yeah.
apparently really good. So third and final one. You're on 2 for 2 here. You're doing really well. In fact, you've been doing well this last few weeks. I'm just not as
You just give me credit. You
I'm
could.
just not as good as I thought I was.
You could just give me some credit.
No.
Okay.
Right. All right, here you go. In the show, we have John Cena, who plays the son of Robert Patrick, the T-1000 himself.
Yeah.
In Cena's first acting role, a film called Marine in 2006, they actually played the hero and the villain of the piece, with Cena being the hero and Patrick being the villain. Is that
Well,
true?
Patrick does look like a villain, so I'm gonna say that looks like it's true. And I know that Cena was in the Marine, so I'm gonna say true.
It's very true. I
Yeah.
really like that. It's
Yeah.
so interesting. And James Gunn seems to have a way of finding actors who have good chemistry and bringing them
Yeah.
together as well. I know we're waxing lyrical about James Gunn, but he is a
You're a big fan of James.
he's
Gunn.
a very good
I
actor.
like him a lot. I think that like he's really good, but I also think like he also has his tropes. Like
does.
we all these superhero movies, except for the Batman, which is very different. They all kind of follow a tropey,
They do a little bit.
like I don't know, structure.
Well, that was our rambling. Less rambling. We're in the same room. We can do this. It's fantastic. Less
no
rambling discussion about
Yeah.
Peacemaker. We both apparently really liked it. It was better than Aquaman. So let's shift on
Same
quickly to
one.
correspondence. Do you have any correspondence this week, DL? We've got
I did.
We've got a
I
few.
some correspondence around from friend of the show D, and who said, talking about Batman. Batman is still in the
Still a
correspondence
hot topic.
weeks after.
Still the highest grossing movie.
And said he loved it. He loved that there was just no jokes. Like there was like one joke, and he was like,
I don't even remember there being one
There was
joke.
there is a joke. Got a lot of cats. It's the only joke in the movie. But he was like, he loved that. He was like, it was just a different vibe than Marvel. So like people are loving the Batman.
Interesting. I'm still loving it too.
Yeah,
A
me
friend of
too.
the show, Andy, who jumped on the show previously to do our Captain America episode, actually messaged back about it. He hasn't changed his mind. He's still not feeling it.
What was his complaint again?
He said it was too long, which I'm kind of with. It was very long.
I mean, like, what did you like the Christopher Nolan ones?
He did.
They're fucking longer.
I don't know if they are.
They're good. They're
It's a
damn,
3-hour movie.
They're damn long, dude. One of them is like for sure as long.
I don't
Let's
know.
look.
The Dark Knight's very long, but I don't know if it's longer than this. Anyway, thank you, friend of the show, Dean. We very much appreciate
Thank you, friend of the show, Andy. Your opinion is wrong, and we hate you.
it. You're never allowed back on the show. If you want to get in contact with us, you can hit us up at Podcast Assemble, as did friend of the show, Matt Blisspod, who said, let's be honest, this is in relation to, what was that Ryan Reynolds movie that came out recently, the one we talked about briefly last week? The
I don't
Adam
know.
Project.
I keep wanting to watch it. There's Star or something. Or...
The Adam Project.
Yeah.
He says, let's be honest, it looks like a Netflix trash film,
It does.
but I'll watch it.
Same.
I'll watch it for Ryan.
I vibe.
He said, Red Notice was nonsense, but he
bad.
wisecracked his way through it and I enjoyed myself. Just hope he doesn't go the same way as Underground 6.
I don't know, but everything you said, I agree with.
I agree with Matt. Though, like,
everything you have said.
I think I watched it for the same reason. It
Yeah.
was not good. But like, it's one of those films that you almost can't avoid because it's Ryan Reynolds and Zoe Saldana, and it's a good fit. It's good for like a hungover Sunday where you just need something that's completely, non. You don't have to think about it. You can just sit and just space.
Yeah.
It's definitely good for that.
The Dark Knight Rises, 2 hours and 44 minutes.
So it's longer than The Dark Knight Rises.
It's like 5 minutes longer.
Yeah,
That
it's
was the
still
longest
longer.
one.
It'd be 10 if it had that joke.
And I'll tell you what. The Dark Knight Rises, great movie, but this one's better.
Interesting.
Would you agree?
I'd say it's probably better. We should do a
Ranking?
YouTube video on our top Batman films. Which ones we like the most?
Yeah.
Mine's obviously going to be 1997's
Yeah, 'cause
Batman
you
and
keep fucking
Robin.
Talking about it, yeah.
Never stop talking about it. Speaking of Batman, thank you very much, friend of the show, Matt. Another friend of the show, Matt. We've got so many fucking friends of the show, Matt. We appreciate it, all of you. You're great. Thank you all for hitting us up. He hits up at Podcast Assembly again, inboxed us, and he sent us a meme. Every week we ask for memes, especially superhero memes. I bloody love them. And he sent this one over. Do you want to explain this to our fantastic fans?
It is the Punisher talking to Batman. I lost my kids. Batman says, I lost my parents. Then the Punisher says, ... Batman says, ... And the Punisher pushes him on a swing set. What? This is really hard to like explain.
It's a culmination of
This is-
stupid shit. I love it. I love it. Someone's clearly gone. These characters are weird. Let's put them together. Please do send us memes. We are at Podcast Assemble. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much for all the friends to the show. Where can they find us?
They can find us at the Podcast Assemble at gmail.com or Podcast Assemble on Twitter or on
Or Instagram.
Instagram.
you
I don't think
wanna-
we have a Twitter.
Do you want to close out the show?
Yeah. I guess remember to send us memes. Tommy,
Send us memes.
I don't really like reading memes without images, but Tommy seems to love it. So send us some memes. Passing the pod on to some friends would be great if you could.
If you know someone geeky enough to like this type
if
of
you
stuff,
do, or
feel
give
free.
us a review. Tommy demands a 5-star review. I do not demand this. A review of any kind would be good. We got to thank Lockie, our social media guy.
As always.
Thank you, Tommy. For editing. He's
Thank you,
he's a
DL.
good editor. He does his best. He works with the garbage I give him and makes it somewhat passable. So with that, we're gonna close it out. And thanks everybody, and tell you.